For me personally, I had a really deep history with orientation in undergrad, and I was involved in leadership for that like literally every year that I could during undergrad. For me, I just really wanted to incorporate that here because I feel like that was such a moment of joy for me. The benefits you get from being an NSO leader are just kind of like the benefits you get from being a leader on campus. You have to learn how to work with others, work in a team, lead others underneath you. Also just, create like a welcoming environment. I feel like these are all things that you have to do as a physician too. Like you have to work in a team. You can't do it all as just one doctor. You have to work with nurses and PAs and everyone else you can think of. This was just one place where I could like help build up those skills for myself. It's not something that's necessarily part of the curriculum. It's something you have to learn for yourself. And this was a great way to get a few of those skills and start building them up. Most student orgs wouldn't be able to do even half the events they do on campus without the help of the Center for Student Life. Most of our events, we provide food. Students don't typically show up without food. Fun fact, I didn't know if you knew that. They also may figure out that they want to be an OB-GYN, and that may be something that they've never even thought about before, right? They may have never thought about that career or what it means or what people look like in that career. But by going to just one lunch and learn, it can completely change their career trajectory. Here, if you're really interested in, emergency medicine, we have EMIG, and you can talk to emergency medicine physicians and talk to other students that are interested in emergency medicine and just dip your toes in all of that. And see if you like it, see what you like about it, kind of see where you want to take your career. When you see somebody flourishing in a student org and finding out what they want to do with their life, something like magical about that.